Hello and welcome to the Sprinklr Coffee Club. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Marshall Kirkpatrick, a VP here at Sprinklr. I've got a cup of coffee. I'm not afraid to drink coffee in the afternoon. You don't have to drink coffee to join us here at the Sprinklr Coffee Club, but I would recommend it today because I think that you are going to want to have your brain working at full capacity for the conversation we've got coming up with our very special guest, Leslie Poston. Leslie is coming to us today from a firm that she works at called Noodle AI. Noodle is an incredible company, super cool. I'll let Leslie tell you all about it. But Leslie works there today as the Director of Content, Social Media, and Communities. And I am really excited to share some lessons learned from Leslie in her work creating really compelling content that reaches into the C-suite, that helps sell new emerging technologies into traditional industries and can serve as inspiration for us all. So Leslie, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm happy to be here, Marshall. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. I am so excited about your work. I have been for quite some time, but especially in digging in to prepare for this show, it just sets my mind on fire to think about the data and the possibilities and the work that you're doing over there at Noodle. Will you begin by telling us a little bit about what this company you've joined does?
Absolutely. So Noodle is an AI as a service company that offers enterprise AI applications to companies that are at the core of the global economy. So that's supply chain, manufacturing, and transportation, with an internal goal of creating a world without waste. And obviously we can do that simultaneously with saving our customers money and reducing lost inventory and reducing deadhead on trucks and generally improving life for everyone.
AI for industrial IoT is one of the ways I've been describing it. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Good. So I think that many of the people in our audience today will be able to relate to being in a place where we're selling emerging technology and we want to reach traditional industries. And if any of you who are joining us today would like to jump in with a question or a thought, any feedback, anything you'd like Leslie or I to speak to, please post that in comments below wherever you're viewing this video. We've got the technology here at Sprinklr to pick up those questions, and we'll be excited to incorporate your thoughts and interests into our conversation. I am so happy to get to talk about this nerdy B2B stuff with you, Leslie. But I know that one thing all of our viewers likely have in common is that we aspire to do work that gets noticed among really busy people. And I know that before Noodle, you spent time at McKinsey participating in content creation there. I love the McKinsey content. It's really inspiring, and I often tell people who are perhaps less familiar with McKinsey than folks in the enterprise consulting world all are, people who come from a marketing perspective, I like to cite the Content Marketing Institute's advice for creating content that gets read by the C-suite. They've got some really good tips, but number 3 is basically read McKinsey, both because executives are reading McKinsey and because the work there, the content is just exemplary in a way to draw in really busy, high-level readers. And I know that it's my understanding, at least, that those are your constituents now at Noodle as well. And I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit, Leslie, some lessons you've learned or some thoughts you've got on creating content that pulls in C-suites or other high-level busy executives.
Absolutely. So executives don't have a lot of time for reading. They don't have a lot of time for watching video. They're mostly interested in getting to the heart of the matter quickly. So I try to treat each piece of content a bit like a TED Talk, right? So when you're watching a TED Talk, you're only given, or when you're planning a TED Talk rather, you're only given 18 minutes to get to your point, to teach somebody something new and extraordinary. And I try and apply that, and the whole team tries to apply that to the content that we create, where you give the nutshell moment, the nugget, the heart of it, towards the beginning of the content. And then usually people are enticed to keep reading, keep watching, keep interacting, keep clicking.
I saw that you published a big, detailed, and I thought fascinating infographic recently. Is that an example of the kinds of content you're referring to?
That is an example where you have a dozen nutshell moments throughout the entire piece of content. People can pick and choose their favorite, whichever is most resonant with them. And we have a great infographic partner that helps us make those. And we have 3 out there. My personal favorite of all of our infographics is one we did in December called AI for Good versus AI for Evil. So if you haven't seen that one, I highly recommend checking it out. So.
Right on. So I know that we're all excited about AI. Lots of people are talking about AI. AI is core to the value proposition here at Sprinklr. But I wonder, from your perspective, what is AI? Is it just math? When does math start becoming AI? What are your thoughts on that that buzzword?
AI is math plus people, right? You can't have good AI without human expertise programming the machine learning models that are making the AI, and the humans need to be practicing AI with an eye for ethics, which we do here at Noodle. We center ethics in everything that we do, and we're constantly trying to remove bias from AI as well, which next week we have a white paper coming out that talks a little bit about bias and how to handle things like dirty data that people might be interested in if they're struggling with that in their own machine learning models.
So bias, ethics, AI, those are pretty hot topics of conversation, especially in the emerging technology space. How do more traditional industries respond to that? And what have you done to reach people who perhaps don't work at the cutting edge, but who you want to make connections with from the cutting edge?
Absolutely. Well, the interesting thing about removing bias is that removing bias from your data ends up helping your customer, right? So if you have data that is free of bias and created ethically, then it's also free of noise. So you can get down to the signal that they need the most the first time and help them make better decisions and take better actions. So really AI as a whole is about making minute corrections in processes everywhere that lead you to a better action that humans can take. It augments the ability of humans to do their jobs and eliminates waste, really.
Mm-hmm. I love your CEO's anecdote, or his saying that the best AI learns from big data, powerful compute, and advanced, experienced operators, humans in the mix.
Yes, the best AI definitely has humans in the mix. Absolutely. The teams that we send to customers to get everyone ramped up with our apps and to figure out how best to help each customer, they're working with the experienced people at those customers' installations, operations, plants, everywhere they are on the floor, helping understand how the business truly works so that we don't waste time trying to solve for problems they don't have.
Mm-hmm. So that's a part of that's essential to the services and onboarding of the product, is finding experienced people who are already at the customer and connecting their knowledge in with your software.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say the human connection might be the secret sauce because of why our apps work so well. Just really understanding our customers' business in a way that other companies that try to do what we do just don't.
So that brings up some big questions for me from a marketing perspective, but I do want to make sure to invite viewers as well to jump in and post your questions or thoughts for Leslie. We'd love to hear what you think about this approach to technology and AI and marketing. But Leslie, I wonder if your target market perhaps assumes that the technology will solve their problems right out of the box, if many people assume that it's hands-free and won't need that human input, how do you do education through your content and other efforts to speak to those misconceptions?
Absolutely. So we have two pieces of content, two types of content, I should say, that I feel address both of those assumptions very well. One of them is a series of webcasts that we've been doing where we have our experts on audio and teaching people about how AI works for about an hour once a month. And so we have probably 7 of those in the can from this year that people can go back and watch about each industry and get those questions answered as to how does this work? How long does it take to ramp up? What are some of the problems we might anticipate having? How do we solve for that? And then the other type of content that we produce to answer those questions are our white papers, which generally follow every webinar as a content cadence and drill down deeper than the webinar did in the way that we're educating clients about how our apps work.
Okay. So we've got a question from the audience going back to the question of bias in AI before we get to the marketing, about the technology itself. And I think this is a great question. Thanks so much for asking it. That question is, how do you test and monitor and measure for bias? So it's a 2-part question. How do you test for bias in your AI technology? And then the second part is, what is the most typical source of that bias? Is it ignorance, error, omission, or is there intentional bias?
I would say bias is rarely intentional, right? It comes from a variety of places. It could come from the status quo. People get stuck in a rut doing something the way it's always been done, and so the data they collect is limited by that. Bias can come from rules-based software. Bias can come from your data sources. So if you have an external source that hasn't been vetted, that can give you bias. And then there's cultural bias, just the attitudes that people have about different things that unintentionally can sometimes inform what you're creating, basically, is an algorithmic model. And then as far as how to clean up dirty data and get rid of bias, that could be a webinar in and of itself. But I will say that if you have the names of the people who are watching right now, if you send me their names, I'll make sure they get a first look at the white paper we're putting out that answers that question in about 5 pages. So.
Right on. So let's talk about the tangible places that you are working on these problems. You've sent over a couple of images that I'll ask Eric on our team to put up about the specific markets that Noodle addresses and the problems that you're looking to solve. Can you tell us a little bit about the market? This is, we do AI around social media and marketing, but that's not the problem space that Noodle is engaging with.
Correct. I can't see the screen, so I don't know which slide is showing, but I sent you 2. So one is fun facts about industrial waste, we call it, right? Which is not something you would normally hear. And my favorite personal statistic that we program against is that 93.7% of the world's waste is industrial waste, and that's global. That is a huge, massive percentage of waste that comes from inefficient supply chains, trucks running deadhead, which means they're traveling the country without a load, so they're wasting fuel, manufacturing plants that have excess waste. One of our customers, Big River Steel, they're actually to a point of efficiency now using our apps that they're selling energy back to the town where they're based, so they're not wasting energy. So that's exactly the kind of success that we like to see from our app.
Let me pause you there, because I've been talking about that statistic to everyone I meet since I read it, because it amazed me. Some people have said that they're not surprised. They're maybe surprised at just how high that number is. But if municipal waste from our homes are the garbage that we throw out, or perhaps the wasted water, or all the different sources of waste there, make up 2-3% of the total waste, and 93% of our society's global waste comes from industry.
Yeah.
Have I got that right?
97%, 93.7%. Yeah.
That's just amazing to me, and feels counterintuitive, or it's surprising, but also really underlines the significance of the work that you're doing here, and draws a clear connection. The AI for good story is not an abstract one for you all.
Correct. Yeah, we definitely live it and breathe it, and it's one of the reasons I joined the company, was meeting Stephen Pratt and hearing him talk so passionately about his not so secret plan to save the planet using AI. Like this definitely, the ethics of the organization comes from the top. It comes from Steve, it comes from Raj Joshi, it comes from the C-suite.
And so let's look at that second image now that you sent through, which talks about some of the really specific places that you're engaging and where your technology is deployed. How can we think about that?
My favorite
stages in the supply chain.
Yeah, my favorite aspect of the second image is how we're seeing concrete results with our apps. So one of my favorite stats that we were able to learn in 2018 is that our apps have saved a quantifiable amount of the atmosphere, I guess is the way to put it, by reducing CO2 emissions by 188,000 tons, which is the equivalent of 10% of the cars in San Francisco. So that's 1 year of our apps with the clients that we had in 2018. And we're going to have vastly more clients at the end of 2019. So I'm so excited to hear the 2019 number in December. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That must make for really compelling marketing as well. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's a great story to tell.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit more about some of your favorite projects, some of your favorite content that you have done at Noodle since joining?
I love all of my content children equally. But I would say I'm having the most fun right now with the infographics and the webcasts that we're making. And then our first ebook comes out tomorrow afternoon, and that has been a blast. It's called The New Rules of the Supply Chain. And it takes all of our knowledge about how to make supply chains better and puts it in a 40-page ebook for people.
And that sounds pretty customer-centric as opposed to brand forward or brand centric. Is that fair to say?
I would say, you can't you can't be in marketing without marketing your brand, but one of the joys of working with Noodle is that all of our content is about our customers, because everything that we make is centered around solving our customers' problems. So when the sales team goes out, they're not talking in a braggart way about Noodle first. They're talking to the customer about what problem they need to solve that we can help them with. So by approaching everything with our company values, Be Chill is our values acronym. The H is my favorite. It's helpful, right? And the whole company tries hard to be helpful and human, both in the content that we make, in the way we sell, and in how we interact with each other in the company itself.
Is that hard to do? Do marketers and sales folks struggle with a desire to just go and sing the company's own praises and push the brand directly?
I think, everyone does, because we're excited about working here. But it's pretty easy to recenter ourselves on the customer and remember that we're there to solve their problems and help them out.
Is there anything that you do for yourself? Has that just become ingrained habit, or do you have any practices for yourself or for others that help refocus back on the customer's pain point?
Absolutely. So like any marketing team, we do competitive analysis and the usual, markety type things. But one of the things that I try to do for content is to also do what I call question analysis, where I'm looking for what questions the customers are asking online and in person, what problems they're looking to solve, where they're feeling frustrated, and trying to make sure that each piece of content addresses at least one of those things.
Okay, and where do you learn that about the customers? You said online and in person. Does that
Online,
mean?
we talk with our sales team pretty consistently to make sure we understand what pushback they're getting, what questions customers are asking. It's actually the marketing and sales team here are pretty tightly aligned, which is something I appreciate. And it can be rare. It's usually you have a silo problem in companies, and we definitely do not have that at Noodle. We also talk with product pretty frequently, which is nice. It's kind of one of our secrets to have a tight marketing organization.
How have you operationalized that? Do you have a regular cadence of face-to-face meetings, or what do you do to keep that communication going with sales and product?
Absolutely. We have a weekly sales go-to-market meeting where we all align. We have individual one-on-ones, and then product. Some of our product team is based in Bangalore, so we actually have a person on the team whose job is to communicate frequently with product and make sure that we're incorporating them into our marketing. So.
Oh, a member of the marketing team.
Absolutely. We have a member of the marketing team dedicated to working with the sales team, and we have a member of the marketing team dedicated to working with the product team. And then brand person and a paid marketing person. I'm the organic person. We have some great new team members that are in design and helping with social media. And then, of course, our CMO is very content driven and very numbers driven.
Well, we've got another question coming up from the audience here that I want to get to, but I want to drill down just one more step in that. So to clarify, make this explicit, you have marketing team members that are embedded. Are they physically present? Is your marketing conduit person in Bangalore with the product team?
No, they're here in the States, but they do. They handle the bulk of the night and early morning meetings that are required when you have an office almost on the other side of the world, and they handle translating product to the rest of us in a way that we can understand, so we can tell the world all about it in a way that they can understand.
That sounds like a really valuable role.
It is. It is. Yeah, Josh is great. And then Kevin with sales, he has the flip side of that coin and translating it out to the sales team in a way that they can use and making sure that they know what content we have and how it will work for them and make sure we're giving them content that meets their needs.
And those are full-time roles, or those partial responsibilities for those folks?
Full-time. Yep.
Wow. And how many employees are at Noodle?
I think we're at 200, maybe a little more now. So we grew quite a bit in the last year.
So that's a really inspiring investment in those relationships. And we all talk about marketing sales alignment or marketing product alignment, but at 200 employees to have someone full-time dedicated to both those relationships in the marketing organization that really seems remarkable to me.
It's very smart. That came from our CMO, Gail. So yeah, that was her idea to do that.
That's fantastic. Let's see, we've got this next question from the audience asks, what type of AI or ML content are you seeing the most engagement with? Would you say thought leadership, customer stories, technical how-tos, or what else is capturing people's interest in AI?
Three types of our personal content get the most engagement. I would say the highest engaged content is definitely the webcasts. Hands down, they have had the most follow-up, the most engagement, the direct connection between content and leads, and follow-up and usefulness for the sales team.
And are those thought leadership or customer stories or how-to webinars?
Leadership right now. Customer story webinars are coming soon. So, yeah. Case studies are probably the second highest return for us as far as customer stories and having people see how our apps can help them and how AI can relate to their immediate needs, definitely. And then the third piece of content that gets the most engagement is recruiting content. So recruiting content. So telling the stories of our noodlers generally gets a good response, high engagement, and leads to people applying to work here. So.
Oh, wonderful. Like the content about the women who work at Noodle.
Exactly. Yeah, that is still our top performing blog post, and it's been about a year since it went live. So.
Wonderful. Oh, that's fantastic. So I want to go back to the webcasts. Thought leadership webcasts are driving a significant number of of qualified sales opportunities.
Yep.
How was that surprising to you? Is that consistent with your experience, that kind of thought leadership as opposed to things like customer stories or how-to content would drive so many opportunities?
I don't think it was a surprise. It'll be interesting to see in the next 6 months or so, after we have a wash of new customer stories out there, if the balance changes, right? Because that's one of the things about making content that I love, is you constantly have to be analyzing your content, seeing what's performing well, which we actually apply some of the AI modeling techniques to do that, right? So you do the multivariate regression on your own content to see what's working and what's performing. So it'll be interesting to, ask me again in 3 months to see if the customer case studies have bumped webcast on the.
So you do multivariate regression analysis of your own content's performance. Is that using Noodle technology or other approaches?
No, it's sadly it's just using the old standby Excel spreadsheets and R together to do those regression analysis. So.
And R, the stats analysis application.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, you, Leslie, are an inspiring example of a marketer with some serious data savvy, with a combination of creativity and data savvy. We've got just a couple of minutes left here before we wrap up. If anyone has outstanding questions in the audience, please let us know in comments here. Leslie, I wonder, thought leadership being so effective and driving so many opportunities, how do you do that? What is it about Noodle's thought leadership that is so effective?
There's a couple of things. One is that we're really open about our intention at Noodle, and our content reflects that. It reflects that ethical attitude towards AI, and I think people appreciate it. We're able to connect the dots between that intention and their bottom line, basically. And so customers respond well to seeing concrete examples about how AI can help them. And then the other secret sauce is someone else on the team, Steve, who's in charge of our growth marketing, right? So between he and Kevin and the sales team, we're constantly getting our content in front of the right people in the right way. So for example, LinkedIn has been phenomenal for us. It blows every other social media cloud out of the water in both organic and paid content. And it for us have come from LinkedIn, which didn't even happen at McKinsey. That's very unusual.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's really exciting to hear, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one listening today that feels really inspired to invest more time on thought leadership and LinkedIn, and perhaps consider some multivariate regression analysis of our content performance. That's a aspirational vision as a marketer for sure. So thank you for that. And I want to thank you, Leslie, for taking the time and offering the transparency to join us here and tell us about this new position that you've got and this new company that you're working with. I find it genuinely really inspiring as a marketer, as a person that would like to live in a waste-free world, and as someone who loves data. And so I know that there are many people today who've really enjoyed joining us, and I want to thank you.
Anytime, Marshall.
Wonderful. So you can be found online. What's the best way for folks to keep up with you on an ongoing basis?
I am a Twitter lover. I've been a Twitter lover since the first days of Twitter. So I am at Leslie on Twitter. I'm always around on Twitter or LinkedIn, or you can email leslie.poston@noodle.ai, and I'll always respond.
Wonderful. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today for the latest edition of the Sprinklr Coffee Club. I hope you enjoyed your coffee as much as I did mine, and I hope that you will come back and join us next week. We've got another exciting guest. We'll be joined next week by Scott Monty, who many of you know from Twitter and social media. and the world of enterprise marketing as well. We sure do appreciate your coming and joining us. And a big thanks to the team for helping put this together. And again, thank you, Leslie, for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. Signing off from the Sprinklr Coffee Club.